Hello, Borada. I've just seen Brent's message. Good morning. How are you? And morning from me and Sam, who's very helpfully right in the middle of the Pilates mat. So exciting morning. I've actually had to shut the blind because there's too much sunlight coming through. You couldn't see anything. So yeah, I don't know if that's that exciting, but you're going to take everything you get at the moment. So we've got a really nice session this morning, my friends. I hope you are feeling well. Rosie, how are you too? Yeah, it is a beautiful morning for Pilates. I'm really excited actually. So without much further ado, just making sure you're feeling, sorry Sam, you're feeling well. This isn't the session to do if you've got some sort of fever, particularly if you've got all the symptoms we're so aware of at the moment. But if you're feeling okay, you might be feeling a little bit stiff or maybe a little bit sore, that's okay. Just listen to your body, do what you feel is right and appropriate, and let's not push it too hard. So I've got my mat, which is down here. You can't see it that well because I'm going to adjust the camera. Got a little towel to support either the back of my head or the front or the side of my head to try and maintain that lovely alignment of the neck and the spine. And your alignment is so important in Pilates. I've got a couple of resistance bands. Haven't decided if we're going to use them or not. If you've got one to hand, great. If you haven't, don't worry about it. I've also got some water that I can have a little sip of at any time. And if you don't like to sip water during this session, have some water afterwards. Just make sure we're hydrated because it's so good for those muscles and joints. Now, let's talk a little bit about that alignment. So there's three main principles with Pilates. You've got your alignment. So we're talking about the sort of skeletal system really, and particularly focusing on shoulders, spine, including the upper back and the lower back, and this pelvis. And what we're going to try and do is get the muscles that support these structures, the really deep muscles, to kick in, to start working properly. And that's what we call those core muscles, the very deep ones. And what we do is we challenge these deep muscles to hold that alignment by moving your arms and legs. That is basically what Pilates is. So there's a bit of flexibility involved, mobility of the joints, deep core muscles. You'll sometimes feel the larger muscles designed for movement, but mostly really focusing on those deep ones. So we're going to think about our alignment. So how we stand before we get going. And most of this session is on the mat, but as most of you know, I like to do a standing warm-up, and it helps you transfer these sort of principles into everyday life. So once you've found that comfortable position where those feet are hip width apart, shoulder width apart for some of you, we're going to think about just where we place the weight in our feet. So we're going to gently take the weight to the balls of the feet and into the heels. And if I show you from this angle, it's not a massive movement. We're just noticing when the weight is through the heels, there's a slight lean backwards, weight is through the balls of the feet, and we're going to make those movements smaller and smaller till we arrive in that mid part of the foot and our weight feels evenly distributed. And then we're going to think about lengthening. So if we start in the middle of that spine, you can even place the hands over that abdominal area and just imagine lengthening through that spine. Imagine the little segments of the spine opening up, space opening in between each segment of that spine, all the way up to the back of the neck, through to the crown of that head. And then we're going to imagine the same coming down that spine, all the way down to that tailbone. So space opening up. And see if we can lose any tension around that tailbone, in the tailbone. Tend to hold a lot of tension here and a lot of tension here. So let that tension just melt away through that tailbone. And then we're going to actually increase the tension in the shoulders. So breathe in as you do that. And as you breathe out, let's see if we can allow those shoulders to drop, fall, glide away from the ears and breathe out. So we're going to do that 2 more times. We're going to breathe in with the tension. And as we breathe out, we're going to let those shoulders glide this time, all the way down, from the ears. And we're going to see how far those shoulders will actually go. So just go as far as you think they'll go and see what happens if you let them fall a little bit further. Good. And once they're there, just let them relax there. Let those arms almost hang. We're going to allow that head to look out straight ahead. So we're going to look out onto that horizon and let that chin become parallel to the floor. And then should be a gentleness, a softness around that neck area. You may find that your chin is lifted a little bit too high or maybe dropped, or that you're turned. Try and find that optimal vision point for that neck to feel relaxed. And then we're going to think about, well, we talk about that bucket of water in our pelvis sometimes. So we're going to go to the lower back and we're going to simply tip some water out of that bucket, out of the back of it. And then we're going to tip some water out of the front of it. And then we're going to tip that water out of the back and out of the front. And you'll notice what happens with that lower back. As the pelvis tilts and tilts backwards, the lower back arches and it then flattens. So we're going to make those tipping movements smaller and smaller till we arrive at that midpoint where we have that natural curve in the base of the spine, and that these bones at the front of the pelvis, these hip bones at the front and the back are on an even plane. And then we're going to think about, again, relaxing those shoulders. We're going to breathe in, roll these shoulders up to the ears, and as you breathe out, let those shoulders slide back and down. So we're going to breathe in and we're going to breathe out. So we're looking out onto the horizon, seeing if we can maintain that beautiful length in the spine. Chest is open. Good. And then one more circle of these shoulders. Now we're going to see if we can lift those heels gently off the floor. And as we do that, we're going to see if we can breathe out and we're going to breathe in. So just not all the way, just a little lift. Breathe out and in. So we're going to move in time with our breathing. Don't worry if you can't lift those heels off the floor. Just think about taking your weight into the balls of the feet as you breathe out. What we're going to try and do is make our movement synchronize with our breathing so that it's our movement. So we're breathing out, breathing in. And then we're going to think about bringing those hands between the belly button and that pubic bone. We're going to relax the shoulders. And we're going to see if we can center, see if we can really brace those core muscles. So we're going to imagine drawing these hip bones together as if we were doing up a tight pair of trousers, drawing these tummy muscles backwards towards the spine, away from those hands, hard as you can. So we call it belt notch 10. And then we're going to release. And then we're going to see if we can do that again. This time, not as hard as we can, but at 50% of our maximum, belt notch 5. And then we're going to release. This time we're going to breathe in as we prepare, if we can, through that nose. And as we breathe out, we're going to draw those hip bones together, tighten that belt to notch 3. And then we're going to relax those arms down by your side. We're going to come into our side bends. So we're going to try and maintain that belt notch 3. You'll forget, I'll forget. But what we want to try and do is just come back to it without really telling yourself up. Don't get cross with yourself if you let it go. It's just about reminding yourself all the time. It's that very light contraction, just making sure those muscles know that we want to use them in this session rather than doing that sort of thing, which we get used to doing because it's easier, but not so good for that spine. Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to do one more either side. And generally that rule of thumb is breathing out as we move away from center and then breathing in as we come back in. But like so many things, don't let that put you off. Now we're going to see if we can bring these fingertips together. We're going to imagine that we've got headlights on these hip bones. Some of us who may have bone density issues are going to make this a very small movement. So we're just literally moving. If we were facing 12 o'clock on the clock face, we'll be moving to 5-2, back to 12, and then we'll be moving to 1 o'clock. Some of us may be able to go a little bit further. And again, shoulders relaxed, long spine. We're looking out onto that horizon, and the only part that's moving is this top half of the body, like one of those Russian dolls. So we're warming up that mid part of the spine. Good. And then we're going to come back to center. We're going to shake these feet out a little bit. We're going to shake it out, shake these legs out. And then we're going to just come back to that nice comfortable position. We're going to make some movements. We're going to warm these shoulders up a little bit. So the sun is beautifully beaming through that small gap in the blind, but it's still fairly cold. It's still first thing in the morning, and we're just going to try and warm these shoulders up a little bit. So I know some of us have got limited mobility in the shoulders, so we might need to limit that movement. Good. You might find you can take a little knee bend, and then we're going to bring it down. Just let those arms hang. And then we're going to think about taking the feet a little bit wider, and we're going to let these arms become floppy. Now see what we're going to do with that opposite heel. So again, some of us may need to really be careful on this twisting movement. Just keep it quite small. Others may find they can make it a little bit bigger. And we're going to see if we can lose that tension in the shoulders, the neck. Good. Okay. And then we're going to just let those arms find their way home. Bring those feet back into that comfortable position. Find that long spine, that neutral spine, shoulders relaxed. We're going to see if we can do some arm floats. So this is about activating those shoulders, activating the core muscles in the trunk as we warm up, just to try and prevent the ribs popping. What we tend to do is that to get the arm up, which is all about this. So we're going to maintain that lovely long spine, focus on the shoulder movement, and that is all. So we're moving this arm independently of the trunk. Try not to let these ribs pop out. Breathe out, breathe in, and then we'll do just 4 or 5 on the other side. In fact, I'm going to have to do alternate because I've messed around a little bit. So think about that belt. Draw that belly button in away from the waistband of the trousers. Think about lengthening the spine, looking out onto that horizon. And then we're going to bring these arms down. We're going to open out this chest. I like to breathe in as we open that chest. Generally in Pilates, we're doing this thing called lateral breathing. So we're breathing sideways into the ribs. So imagine that you're breathing into your armpits. Maybe even breathing into the back of your ribs. So imagine breathing into the shoulder blades. And it means that we're leaving space for this belt-like muscle to contract. So we're breathing into those armpits. And then we're going to bring these hands down. Now, let's see if we can go back to that heel lift. We're going to lift those heels off the floor, bring it down. So this time we've got the belt-like muscle helping us. Arms relaxed, chest lifted, belt at notch 3 or 4, looking out onto that horizon. Good. And then we're going to bring these heels down. We're going to take a little mini squat. We're going to get these legs warmed up a little bit, little mini squats. So those of us who've got issues with the knees, we want to be very careful here. We want to make sure that those heels remain firmly attached to the floor and that the knees are bending in line with that second toe. If this doesn't suit you, just think of something you feel comfortable doing movement-wise, just while we do this. Now we're going to draw that tummy button in. And we're going to allow this chest to relax and rest over those thighs. The head is going to become floppy. Arms are going to become floppy. Now, remember that little pelvic tilt. we're going to just push your imaginary tail between your legs, and then we're going to roll up through this spine. So I've got my knees bent just while we warm up this lower back. We're going to stack each little segment of the spine one at a time till we come back up. Now this is our sort of level 1, particularly good when we're warming up. We're going to do 3 or 4 of these little roll-ups. Now if you feel comfortable taking it to the next level, there's a little bit more pressure on that spine, so stick with these ones if you're not sure. If you feel comfortable, we can straighten out those legs, imagining that beach ball at your feet, and we're going to lift this chest over that imaginary beach ball. Now, as we do this, this head is totally relaxed. You can see through your legs. The arms, if someone pushed them, would be totally floppy. That belt is active. And as soon as those hamstrings, that back says that's enough, we're going to breathe in. And as we breathe out, we're going to stack one little segment of the spine at a time till we come all the way up. Good. And once we're back up there, we're going to take a roll of these shoulders, and we're going to think about making a circle, leading with this thumb. We're going to breathe in, and we're going to breathe out. We're going to breathe in, and we're going to breathe out. Good. We're going to take one more breath in. We're going to breathe out, and then we're going to change arms. So all the while we're looking straight ahead. So if we've got limited mobility in the shoulders, we might need to take this circle a little bit wider, a little bit smaller. So listen to that shoulder. Work within your range rather than pushing outside it. And we're going to use repetition rather than force to increase the mobility in that joint. Good. Okay. We are going to see if we can come down onto our mats. So some of you will feel more comfortable sort of taking a kneeling position and then coming down. You might need some support. Some of you might be happy using our roll down. So remember, we want that tail hanging down to the heels firmly on the floor. We're lifting that chest up and over that imaginary beach ball. Now, when you get to the end of that move, we can bend those knees, walk ourselves out into a kneeling position. Okay, and once we're there, we're going to take a cat stretch. I'm going to move our camera angle so that we're all together on the same page. I've been given a sophisticated sort of type of implement, which I haven't worked out how to use. So we're still here. You can see Sam's tail in the background there. So I didn't plan that very well. Okay, so we are going to be here in this kneeling position. Hands underneath the shoulders, nice long spine, shoulders drawn away from the ears. If you had a tail at this moment, it would be sticking straight out behind you. And then as we draw that spine up to the ceiling, we're going to take that breath out. And we're going to breathe in as we come back to that start position, to that neutral spine. So your eyes, we're actually looking sort of as we come back to the start position, to our neutral spine, we're looking at this invisible thread. Okay, imagine there's a line between the tops of your fingertips, horizontal line. So we're looking just over that line. We've got that chin drawn to the back of the neck. And then we're going to come back into neutral. Just tuck that bottom under and see if we can come into our child's pose position. So don't worry if you think, oh, I'm not quite getting that position or it's not there yet. Okay, what we're going to do is just find a comfortable rest pose that works for you. So some of us may need the toes under here. Don't worry too much about how it looks. Think about how it feels. We're getting a nice little stretch of that lower back. Shoulders are relaxed. And then we're going to see if we can walk ourselves out into this prone position. So we're going to just push those feet behind you. Come down onto this mat. Good.
So while we're here, we're going to do a little bit of abdominal bracing, but we're also going to think about that alignment. So once we're on the mat, we tend to just let this tummy sink into the mat. So we're going to try and avoid that. So remember that neutral spine. Think about that rocking movement, okay? We can do it in this position. It's not as easy, but again, find that little rocking movement and see if you can bring yourself to a stop in the middle of that move so that that pelvis is in its natural alignment. You can almost feel these abdominals having to work to stop themselves sinking into the mat. So imagine this mat is ice cold and we just want to draw your tummy button away from the blocks of ice underneath it because they're freezing. It's like walking into the sea on a cold day. So we're going to just alignment, then relax the shoulders, let those hands relax by your side. We have the palm down. Now, the first thing we're going to do is relax your bottom muscles. Brace these abdominals, tighten this belt, maintain that neutral spine. And you might think, oh, I need my towel underneath my forehead. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of support. And then all we're going to do is work these upper back muscles. We're going to squeeze these forearms up from the floor, squeeze the shoulder blades together, and we're going to slowly bring it down. So this is what I call our swan dive squeeze. We're going to squeeze, breathe out. And as you breathe in, come back. Make sure you brace those abdominals before every squeeze. So draw that tummy button away from the ice cold mat. Good. Really relax the shoulders on the way down. Tighten that belt. Squeeze. We're breathing out. Good. Lengthen through that spine, my friends. So remember that neutral spine. Draw up. I often find that the pelvic floor squeeze works really well in this position as well, because we're not bracing, we're not tensing the bottom muscles, and we sometimes miss the pelvic floor by tensing the glutes. So see if you can use that lift or elevator, draw it up from the pubic bone all the way up towards the belly button. Now we're going to let these arms relax down. This time we're going to tense the bottom muscles. We're going to tense these glutes, the gluteus maximus. We're going to keep those feet on the floor and we're going to see if we can lift this chest. So we're going to work the lower back muscles and then slowly lower this chest down. And again, bracing those abdominals, relaxing those shoulders away from the ears. We're basically using these lower back muscles. Good. Now you can use these forearms to help you if you feel they need a little bit of help. If we have any bone density issues, we're going to stay with this smaller range. Okay, we're just gently lifting. Keep squeezing those bottom muscles as you lift. They're assisting the back muscles. And if you want to make it more challenging, we can turn those palms towards the thighs. Really open out that chest as you lift. So draw those shoulder blades together and down. Good. We're going to take one more, maybe two more. We're going to do around 8 to 10 of each exercise, depending on what it is. And then we're going to see if we can bring these hands underneath you, back to that cat stretch. Really lengthen through those arms. Okay, nice long neck. And then we're going to draw up. Really imagine you're that dog and you're pushing that tail between your legs, coming back. We're going to do 3 of these just to really loosen up that back. Breathing out and breathing in. Good. One more time. Back to that neutral spine, back to that long lengthened spine. Good. Okay, into that child's pose. This time, we're going to gently push those fingertips away from your center. Get a lovely little stretch of those shoulders. Good. Okay, let's bring those hands in. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk ourselves out onto our sides. So we're going to come onto our sides. we're going to see if we can do, I can't remember if we did this last week or not, but I'm going to go with it anyway. We're going to start with some leg lifts, and then we're going to practice what we call as a little kick. And you'll notice that you really have to stabilize here. So let's get that really good position started with. We're going to rest on that forearm. And if you think you need that towel here, okay, I've noticed I need it more as I get older. So we're going to stack these hips, okay, one on top of the other. Have a little look. If you can see quite a bit of this inner thigh, you'll probably roll back too much. And if you can see your bottom, you'll probably roll forward too much. So one on top of the other. Great stuff. So we're going to see the first thing we do is we're going to draw this tummy button away from the mat. Relax this shoulder. Now you may need a bit of support. So the further that hand is away, the more support it gives you. Still keep this shoulder nice and relaxed. Now let's see if we can float this foot, ankle, so it's about level with the hip. And we're going to really keep drawing this belt-like muscle in. Now you may find, I don't need so much support. I might be a bit wobbly, so I might have to come back to it. But we're basically going to take those side leg lifts. We're going to breathe out and slowly back down. Good. So think in terms of flow. We're working these muscles, these little mini glutes. Shoulders are relaxed. These muscles working really hard because they're keeping us from sort of rolling over, from actually doing what we want to do. Good. And we're looking straight ahead. So we're going to do about 8 of these, my friends. Good. Now, if you prefer, we can float that lower leg off the floor too. But we need to make sure we keep that neutral spine. Remember, we don't want those heels behind you. If you feel a dull ache in your lower back, bring those heels ever so slightly forwards. Good. We don't want you into a banana shape. Breathing out, breathing in. And that knee facing forwards. Both knees facing forwards. Good. Now, once we're here, you might need this. We're going to see if we can squeeze this lower leg up to reach the top. Good. So you'll notice you're having to squeeze through that inner thigh. But you'll also notice, breathe in. Good. Now, if this gets too much, just bring the lower leg down, bring the top leg down, find a position of rest. So as well as working those outer thigh muscles and glutes, we're working the inner thigh. We're going to take one more of these. Good. Now we're going to gently lower this foot down. Bring this one down. We're going to bend those knees, give this muscle a little rub. Sometimes it helps just to place that knee over, just stretches that area out a little bit. Now, while we're here, we're going to see if we can do that lovely open door exercise. So we sort of want a 90-degree angle at the knee with those heels in line with that tailbone. You might want to take that towel now, place it under the head because we're going to bring this hand palm facing up. And most of you will know this one if you've been with me before because I put it into every session. So we are going to breathe out. Now, the important thing are these hips. We want to keep them stacked so we're getting the stretch across the chest. And it's like a door opening, like the sun rising. We're going to breathe out. And we're going to breathe in. And I'm going to adjust my towel a little bit because I'm rolling off it. Good. Breathing out. So we're going to do 5 or 6 of these. We're breathing out. It's very much a stretch, mobilizing movement. Really complements the upper back strength that we do. So that swan dive squeeze. If we can strengthen your upper back muscles and then create more flexibility in the chest and the front of the shoulder, gives you a much looser sort of neck and shoulder area and also helps with your posture. Now we're going to bring this arm back again and we're going to see if we can lengthen out these legs again. So just check that those heels haven't moved backwards, that those hips are still stacked. We are going to do what they call a little kick. So we're going to see if we can float this leg up again. Now remember, we want to draw that belly button in. Okay, shoulder relax. You might need that little bit of support. Now what we're going to do is just gently, gently, it's almost hinging at the hip. We're going to take this leg, nice straight leg forwards. We're going to bring it back. So I'm going to show you from a different angle because that's not very good. So this is my different angle. Okay, so we've got those hips stacked. I'm floating this leg and I'm just gently taking it forwards, bringing it back. Good. So I'm going to need a bit more support with these hands for this one. So I'm going to take my fingers right out, relax those shoulders, breathing out, breathing in. You'll notice you have to really use these abdominals because this is what wants to happen as that leg comes forwards. So again, we're going to aim for somewhere between about 6 and 8 of those. We're breathing out, breathing in. Good. Breathing out, breathing in. And we're going to just take one more. Breathing in, bring it down. Okay, let's bend those knees, my friends. Great work. We're going to slide this hand back and then we're going to just gradually bring ourselves onto our backs. Good stuff. Okay. We've gone about things slightly differently today, which is always good. Change is as good as a rest, they say, don't they? Now, let's see if we can just start to do that pelvic tilt movement again. Lots of you have done this with me where we put the thumbs on the belly button and the fingers on the pubic bone and just make those rocking movements that we did originally, that bucket of water. And we're going to make them smaller and smaller till the fingers and the thumbs are on an even plane. So if you had a clock face resting on your belly, the 6 or the 12 would be at the pubic bone and the 6 would be at the belly button and that clock face would be flat. And if we place those hands underneath that lower back, there's that natural curve again. So you could just get your fingers maybe under there at a squeeze if you really pushed, but you haven't got that gap that you could get that whole hand under. So find that neutral spine and then let's activate that belt-like muscle. Relax the shoulders. Check those feet are around hip width apart. Toes facing towards 12 o'clock. If you're not sure, have a little check. Have a little check. Good. Right. Let's see if we can start with those pelvic tilts. So we're going to tip that 12 o'clock by tilting that pelvis so it's higher than the 6. Okay, and then we're going to come back so they're both on that even plane. So we're not arching the back so the 6 is ever higher. Good. So we're going to take this pelvic tilt. Let's practice breathing out as we gently tilt so that lower back presses into the floor, into the mat. Breathing in to return. Now this time we're going to relax those arms by the side. Breathe out and squeeze those bottom muscles, peel the spine about halfway away from the mat. Let's see if we can build up to this bridge. And then as we come back down, we're pressing, starting at the top of that back, starting at the top of the back, each little segment of the spine. So we're going to peel that spine. It's like me peeling a piece of sellotape away from the table, like I did earlier. Why was it there? And then at the top, we're just going to go back down. We're pressing that bit of tape in one section at a time. We don't want to place the lowest down first because we're going to get all crumpled. Good. So peel that Velcro away from the mat, that Velcro being your spine. And then imagine that you're just starting at the top of that spine, pressing each piece at a time back down into the mat. Good. Okay, so we're really using the strength of the bottom muscles, the strength of the backs of the thighs. Okay, that's your hamstring muscles to do this work. But we're having to use these core muscles to stabilize these hip bones. So imagine that I put that spirit level over your hip bones and that red dot's in the middle. Now, as we peel, have a look at those knees. Just check those knees aren't splaying out to the side or pressing in. We want them pushing up towards the ceiling. Good. And then all the way back down. So, and that requires strength here. Now, Some of you may have seen bands, loop bands. If you find those knees push in, you can strengthen these muscles on the side by placing a band. So the band is making these muscles work. They're making these thighs come. If you find your knees splay out to the side, you may want to put a cushion between those knees to really force the inner thighs to work so that we can maintain that lovely alignment. So if you need any further clarification on that, just get in touch with me. Okay, now we're going to come all the way back down. We've done quite a lot of those. So let's bring one knee and the other knee into that chest. We're just going to hug them in, hug them in. Okay, now let's take this one leg, take it down, push that big toe away from your center so you get that stretch in the top of the thigh, and we're going to draw this knee towards the same shoulder. And then either holding onto the shin or the back of the thigh, we're going to draw this knee across the body towards the opposite shoulder. So you're getting a nice stretch in that piriformis muscle. It's a really little one, sort of hidden among those gluteals. And then we're going to just bring this knee in, do the same. So first of all, same knee, same shoulder, stretch out the big glutes. And then we're going to just aim for those smaller gluteals and the piriformis by drawing that knee to the opposite shoulder. Lovely. Okay. So we're going to bring this knee back. Take that knee back down with control. Make sure those feet are about hip width apart. Sort of getting all. Now, let's see if we can find that neutral spine again. Find that neutral spine. And then we're going to tighten that belt. We're going to see if we can come into tabletop. So let's see if we can bring that knee over that hip. So remember that glass of water on the shin. Now, we're going to see if we can maintain that angle, and we're going to take 8 toe dips on each side. Now, I can instantly feel my shoulders, my arms pressing into the floor as I do this. So first step, tabletop, hold. Have we got that neutral spine? Is that belt active? Shoulders, relax. Arms, let them melt into the mat. Now, you may need to tighten that belt again. Let's now lower that toe with control, breathing out. Now relax those shoulders, breathing in. Good. Now, you can do this with single leg tabletop. You might prefer to challenge a little bit more by holding double legs. So the one leg stays static. Good. While the other moves. And we're still going to do 8 on the left, 8 on the right. So when we've done our 8 on the left, we're going to gently change legs. Now, you may notice a little bit of clicking in your hip. If you get that, just limit how far you go. Don't push into the click. Okay? I always forget to tell you that one. And it sometimes just pops in. Sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. It might mean sometimes that you're actually not quite in alignment with the hip, okay, but it should be able to cope with slight misalignment. So it's a ball and socket joint. So when we've done our 8 there, we're just going to bring that knee in again and here. And this time we're going to roll like a ball. Good. Whew, nice little breath out. This is the ticket, isn't it, chums? Feeling better already. And I was feeling pretty good to start with. So heels together, feet together. We've got those knees together. We're going to relax the shoulders. And this time those arms are almost creating an arrow shape because we're going to come into our hip rolls. So remember, this movement is controlled by the belt-like muscle. And I'm going to start really nice and small. So from that 12 o'clock position with my knees, I'm literally going to let them gently fall to 11. Then I'm going to bring them back, really tightening this belt, making sure you can sort of almost feel the posterior, the back hip bones, just gently rolling into that mat. Good. Shoulder blades stay connected to that floor. Good. Nice and relaxed. And you may feel comfortable taking that head in the opposite direction. And then Don't forget to breathe, my friends. At this point, whenever I do this, I think, oh, I was holding more tension than I thought. So really breathe out that tension. It's very mindful movement. One of my favorites. It's a really nice one to do when you wake up in the morning, as long as you're not disturbing anyone. Okay, as I found to my detriment. Right, what we're going to do next is we're going to come back to that tabletop. We're going to think about these abdominals a little bit more. So again, find that neutral spine, and remember, if in doubt, lower back a little bit closer to the mat than further away. Now we're going to see if we can come into that tabletop position. And this time we're going to take that single leg stretch. So if you were sort of lying down and you just wanted to push a button on that wall in front of you, you'd lengthen out this leg without letting that back come away from the mat. Now, the higher that foot is, the less challenging. So the less the pelvis wants to help by tilting and bringing that back away. Okay, so find that position that you think you can keep the shoulders relaxed. Okay, you may prefer to do this double leg. Now we're going to do 10 on the left this side and then 10 on the right. So you'll notice the most challenging time is when that foot is furthest away from you. That's when you're going to have to really draw this tummy button in. Don't let that back go. Don't let those shoulders tense up. Okay? So if any of those things are happening, make it a little bit less challenging on yourself. Make that foot higher. Maybe just use single leg and build gradually. We don't have to go straight to the most challenging one. We can build gradually, and then we'll build in a quality way. So should we do the same on the other leg? I'm actually going to do single leg tabletop. I was finding that quite challenging enough. We're breathing out, breathing in. So if you wanted to make it more challenging, you can pause at the top of that move and then slowly bring it back. So breathe out, little pause, slowly back. Good. Relax those shoulders, my friends. I can feel mine today. I don't know what's going on. Breathe out. I'm going to just see if I can turn my palms up to really encourage that relaxation in the shoulders. Good. Breathing out, breathing in. Now, when you've done your 10 on the right, again, we're going to hug these knees in. We're going to roll like a ball. So we've got that lovely long spine, and all we're doing is massaging that lower part of the spine. Now, some of you may feel comfortable lifting the chest, keeping that little orange between the chin and the chest, and making this movement a little bit bigger. Okay, breathing out, never rolling past the shoulder blades, or you may be just happy here. Good work, friends. Okay, let's take one foot down and then the other. I'm going to bring you onto your side. And then we're going to push ourselves up to a seated position. A nice seated position. So remember, you might need this towel underneath those sitting bones just to help you sit up nice and tall. Or you can roll your mat up. So I used to do this because I never used to have a towel wherever I was. So that works really well, or a cushion. So once we're in that sitting position, let's see if we can take a straddle position. So it doesn't matter if your toes are up or down. A lot of that will depend on your ankle and calf flexibility. And then we're going to see if you feel comfortable taking this straddle position. Okay, so could be here, could be here. Just see how far you feel you can maintain that seated position. So we're going to relax these shoulders down. And all we're going to do is palms down. We're going to open out this chest. Okay. And we're going to bring it in. I'm going to show you from this position. Okay. So nice and tall. Squeeze those shoulder blades together. Keep that chin parallel to the floor.
Okay, now while you're doing this, remember that pelvic floor elevator. What we're going to do is almost draw up from the mat to the first floor. Okay, so see if we can activate that pelvic floor, particularly as we breathe out. And we're going to breathe in. Now this time I'm going to breathe in. Okay, I'm going to squeeze up that pelvic floor, squeeze those shoulder blades together. Good. And one more time, we're going to breathe. And then we're going to come back. Good. Now let's see if we can imagine we've got that beach ball just resting over those thighs again. We've got the hands resting on top. We're going to lift that chest over the beach ball. Then we're going to push your tailbone down into the floor and roll up. Okay, so from here, we're going to lift that chest. We're just going to do 2 more of these and really relax those shoulders. Draw up that pelvic floor. Keep that little orange between your chin and your chest. And all the way up, looking straight ahead. Shoulders relaxed. Pelvic floor. Breathe out. Breathe in. And just bring those legs in. Oh, super duper. So while those feet are in, we're going to see if we can take that prayer position again, and we're going to take that gentle little twist one way, come back to center, and that gentle twist the other way, and come back to center, just like we did in the warm-up. And then we're going to take those hands either side of us. We're going to see if we can bring ourselves, so we were exercising on our side. My feet were that way. So I'm not sure what your feet were, but we're going to change sides. Does that make sense? No, not at all, Sarah Tag. But anyway, let's do the other side. We're going to do those side leg lifts. So remember that hip stacked position. Okay, I'm going to just do this without my towel this time. Now let's just see how that lower back feels in this position. Now this is my more wobbly side, so I'm definitely going to need this support. It's better than it used to be, marginally. Now let's see if we can float that leg to hip level. Good. Draw this tummy button away from the mat. So really draw in. Try not to let that lower back arch. So maintain that lovely neutral spine. This shoulder nice and relaxed. And then with that knee facing forwards, we're going to gently, gently lower. So I used to talk about, I can remember being in that village hall in St. Dogmael's, and I used to mention being a ballet dancer in this move. It just seems so relevant. So imagine you're like a ballet dancer, someone's watching you and you're making this movement really, really graceful. So we tend to do the grace on the way up and just let that leg fall on the way down. So really control that movement on the way down. Now, if you think you can do this with that lower leg lifted, okay, as long as we're not arching that back, maintaining that lovely shoulder, relaxation, looking straight ahead, let's do that. Now, once we're there, we're going to hold that leg at hip width apart, or hip level, sorry, and we're going to squeeze this lower leg up to meet him. Now, as you squeeze, you will want to push your belly out. It's just one of those things that happens. So really, really draw that tummy button in as you squeeze this inner thigh upwards. Good. And make sure, breathe out. Good. Breathe out. Okay, I think we got 2 more of those, but remember, like everything, if anything gets too much, you stop, find a comfortable position, and then we'll wait for the next. Now I'm going to lower this, then that top leg with control, bend those knees, and I do like to let this knee gently fall over. It just gives this a little bit of stretch. So I'm going to take that lovely move for chest flexibility, the open door, so keeping those hips stacked. I'm going to bring my towel in now, and we're going to just let that head rest there. So we've got those shoulders relaxed, palms facing each other. Okay, tighten that belt. Take that breath out. Follow that hand. So it's as if the hand and the arm, they're leading. And what we're going to do is just gently follow it with the head and the eyes, but
most of the time, I don't know if you're the same as we, I can't actually see the hand once it goes past a certain level. That's okay. Don't force the neck to follow it. And don't limit the arm movement just because you can't see it. So it's about feeling your way with this one. Good. Keep that belt active. Breathe out. And we're going to breathe in. Lovely. So we're going to breathe out. And then we're going to bring that hand all the way back. And then again, I'm going to allow this arm to support my head, maybe with the towel as well. So, do you remember what we did next? Now, what I did forget to tell you is if you found it really hard to control with that straight leg underneath, you remember we're going to do the kick. You can bend this knee. So you've got a stable, it's like having a triangle base rather than just a line. So you've got a bit more stability there just to get used to it. Now we're going to do roughly 8 of these. Remember, we're hinging at the hips, breathing out, breathing in. And you may feel comfortable taking that straight line. Now, what I used to love doing is flexing that foot as we went out and then pointing that toe as if you were pulling something in. So almost pushing something outwards and then hooking your toe around it and pulling it back. Good. Now I am holding on for grim life with this shoulder here. So I'm going to relax that and I'm going to make my movement a little bit smaller. Good. So I can really let these core muscles take over. Good. And when we've done 8 of those, you don't have to do that little flex of the foot. It's just a bit of fun. And then we're going to bring it down. And then again, going to give this a little bit of a rub. Super duper, super duper. Okay, my friends. So from here, we're going to push ourselves back up into that straddle position. So this time I'm going to keep my knees bent, but we are going to try and keep that nice long spine. So really slide those shoulders down the back. So what we're going to attempt to do here, this is lovely. We're going to do that lovely mermaid stretch. So basically, we're going to allow this arm to come over. I'm going to sit back a bit so you can see. Okay, hopefully. And we're just going to take that really nice. So this elbow is just softening as we come over. And then we're going to lengthen up. This shoulder and elbow is going to soften. We're going to breathe out. And now some of you know that we can do this in the Z sit position. And if you prefer to do that. And we'll do 3 on each side. So 3 with each leg leading. Good. 3 full ones. So we're breathing out. So keeping both sitting bones on the floor. Breathing out. Softening that supporting elbow. Looking straight ahead. Drawing up through that pelvic floor. Or keeping that belt at notch 3. And then we're going to bring it down. Roll those shoulders up and back. So I'm going to come back to my mat and I'm going to come into that straddle position. So if this gets too much, I want you to just leave it. Also, some of you may want to avoid this one with bone density issues. So if you're avoiding this one, I'm going to get you to come onto your back and practice your bridge in a static position. Now let's take those arms out to the side like we did before. So we're drawing up. Now this time we're going to lift this chest over that thigh as if you had the beach ball on this thigh, on this right thigh, and then we're going to come back. Okay, we're going to come back to center and then we're going to turn, lift that chest over your left thigh, come back. So we're going to do this in that saw position. So it's lifting the chest, coming back, good, relaxing those shoulders, lifting this chest. And what you might find is that you're sort of naturally looking as you lift that chest, almost behind you towards that back arm. I'm doing it. See if you can slide those shoulders down as you come back up. Good. So this is a lovely little rotational movement. Lifting the chest rather than lifting those shoulders. And then we're going to bring it back and down. Take a little roll of those shoulders. Great stuff, my friends. Really nice bit of movement here today. So we're going to come onto our backs again. Well, in time. We're going to see if we can sit sort of slightly forwards on these mats, and we're going to practice those C curves. So this leads naturally into that roll down. So we're really working these abdominal muscles, and there's a little bit of that rectus abdominis, the sort of six-pack muscle. But if we have, again, I'm going back to those bone density issues. So anywhere hinting on sort of arthritis of the lower back, osteoporosis, what we're going to stick with is this C curve. So this looks like I'm just leaning backwards. I'm not. I am doing that cat stretch, that pelvic tilt before the shoulder bridge, but I'm using these abdominal muscles to create almost a C curve. So in that lower back. So I've got that relaxed shoulders, and then I'm going to lengthen through the spine. Good. Breathing out. Breathing in. Now, only if you feel you're strong enough in those abdominals and it feels safe, do we start to press, starting with that lower back, one little segment at a time. Breathe in on that way back. Good. So we're tilting, drawing that tummy button in, pressing one little segment at a time. So if you feel comfortable and confident, we can take it further, but otherwise we're going to stay with these lower levels. It's about protecting yourself as well as strengthening the muscles. It's like we said, there's no point going to the nth level if it's going to hurt you. Good. This is all about feeling good. Now, what we can do is add a little spine stretch. So if you're comfortable, as you breathe out again, we're going to lift that chest over the thighs, lengthen up, tilt, breathe out. Now, I'm going to show you the whole way if you're comfortable doing that. Now, these arms work really well because as they push up, they give you momentum. So we're pushing over those knees and rolling up, breathing out. Now, some of you will be able to take this to the straight leg, but make sure you haven't got any of those issues I mentioned at the start and that we can do this with control. Brilliant. Okay. I'm going to give you a couple of moments and then we're going to come down onto our back. So actually I need to just show you the safest way to come down onto your back. So to come down onto our backs, you can either use these hands to support, you can take the backs of these thighs, or if you're really unsure, just turn onto your side, come down onto your side, and then we'll just gently bring these knees over. Good stuff. Okay, what I would like to do is just a little bit of shoulder mobility. We haven't done so much of that today. So I'm just going to check the time. Oh, yes, I'm doing better today. So we're going to do a little bit of shoulder mobility. So we're going to come into full tabletop. So tighten this belt. Make sure you're in neutral spine. We're going to breathe in and we're going to breathe out. So we always come into these positions with control. Now make sure, if you're finding that challenging already, bring the knees a little bit closer to the chest. If you're fine with this, if you want to challenge these abdominals to hold that neutral spine a bit more, you can take one foot away or you can just gently take both knees a little bit further. Now we're going to float these arms up. We're going to lead with the thumbs and we're going to take that one arm float. So remember that steel thread. It's the base of the ribs and the top of the pelvis. So as this arm floats backwards, don't let that rib pop and that arch back, okay? So you're going to have to really use these abdominals. And what we'll notice is that we start to make the shoulder a little bit more flexible because we're not using other ways of getting that arm up. Lovely. Really draw that tummy button in. So we're going to take that arm float into the scissors switch, pause at the top, slide those shoulder blades down the back. So slide those shoulder blades down into the mat, particularly as that arm comes overhead. Good. And then we're going to meet those hands in the middle. So when you've done your scissor switches, we're then going to let both hands come overhead. So you're going to have to really tighten that belt as the arms come over the head. Breathe out. Circle those arms back to the knees. and over. Really making sure you breathe out as those arms come into the most challenging position, which is over the head. So palms facing each other as they come back to the knees. We're going to take one more. Good. And then let's just hug these knees in. Let's roll like a ball. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, let's take one foot down and the other foot down. We're going to see if we can bring ourselves onto our front. So I'm going to let these knees just gently fall to the side. And I'm going to come onto my side. I'm just going to stroke Sam's paw. Oh, sorry, Sam. And then I'm going to straighten out my legs and then come over onto my front. Lovely. So we did quite a lot of, not a lot, but we did some lower back work. We did some upper back work. So I'm going to build on that a little bit. We're going to add sort of that swan dive movement, and then we're going to add some swimming arms and legs. But if anything doesn't work, just go to the smaller movement. I'll always give you the lowest level first. So I'm going to just make sure that my neck is nice and long, that there's no sort of that or that going on. I'm looking straight down into my mat, and I'm creating that sort of position where I'm not here. There is some space between the upper arm and the trunk. So there's some space in the armpit. That's the word I'm looking for now. We're going to relax this bottom. We're going to go into that swan dive movement first. So the first thing I'm going to do is just slide this hand up and squeeze this elbow down. So I'm just sliding it along the carpet. The bands are in the way. And I'm going to do that. Now, if I feel comfortable taking it to the next level, I'm going to actually squeeze these forearms away from the mat. Now, I'm going to put a tennis ball under each hand, and I'm going to just roll that tennis ball forwards and as far backwards as I can. One arm at a time. Good. Now, you'll notice you have to really draw that tummy button in to stop the back arching, so don't let that tummy down. As that fingertip moves further away from center. So what, again, we want to do is sort of do that. Okay, keep that neutral spine. Keep that bottom relaxed. And if you feel comfortable, we're going to do two arms together. We're going to breathe in. Squeeze these elbows to the back of those knees if you can. Breathe in. Breathe out. Good. Breathe in. Breathe out. Lovely. I'm just going to adjust my towel a little bit. And we're just going to do two more. Keep breathing. Squeeze and release. And you might feel comfortable coming into that child's pose now, really stretching out those arms. And then we're going to come back into that lying down position. Now this time we're going to be activating these glutes. So remember that swimming. So the swimming legs, we're going to see if we can come into that lovely neutral spine, activate the belt-like muscles, squeeze the bottom, and we're lengthening, squeezing from the hip. This is the one I find probably so difficult because I want to do that. I just want to bend my knee. But we're moving from the hips, okay? So we're really activating these glutes. Good. Now what we're going to try and do is about 4 on each leg, just to really activate the glute rather than doing that. Let's try it on the other side. And then we're going to see if we can do the same with these arms. Now try not to arch that spine. I'm doing alternate. You can do 3 or 4 either side. Now, if you feel comfortable, we're going to do 8 on each side, opposite arm, opposite legs. So really find that neutral spine, shoulders relaxed, brace those abdominals. If this is too much, just go to arms or legs. I'm going to do alternate. So we've got to really control these core muscles. Hip bones connected with the mat. Really draw that tummy button away from the mat. Relax those shoulders as you come back. Good. Imagine I'm lengthening you horizontally. And then when you've done your 8 on each side, again, we're going to come up and we're going to bring ourselves into that child's pose position. Lovely. Breathe out. And then we're moving towards the end of our session. We're going to bring ourselves into that kneeling position. I'm going to take one foot and I'm just going to slide it in front of me. And I'm going to let my chest rest on this thigh. So just watch that toe. Now, when we lift the chest, we're going to try and make sure we don't arch the back. So gently just stretching this area here. So you can stay here if that is better for you. But if you feel comfortable, try not to arch the back. We're almost gently pushing this hip forwards. We're going to lift this chest. Now we're going to hold on to that lovely beach ball again. And we're going to place it to the side of the bent leg, the front leg. And then we're going to come all the way back. Just gently lower that chest. Slide that thigh, that foot back. Do the same on the other side. Good. Okay. So for some of you, this may give you enough of a stretch. Okay. Remember, it's the back, top of the back thigh we're looking to stretch. I may have taken that foot too far forwards. Now, if we can, with those shoulders nice and relaxed, you can press on that thigh just to give yourself a little bit of support. We're going to lift that chest and really lengthen through that spine. Okay, remember all that alignment. Then with that beach ball, we're going to breathe out and we're going to place it just to the side of that front leg. And then we're going to come back. Not forgetting to breathe out. Slide this foot backwards. We're going to walk the hands back towards the knees. I'm going to tuck my toes under. Now, if you're not comfortable using the roll down to come up, you can come up whatever way you like. Okay, we can just bring ourselves how we like onto our feet. But if you can, we're going to walk these hands towards the feet. We're just letting that head relax, straightening those legs just as much as you feel comfortable, tightening that belt, pushing those heels into the floor, then rolling through that spine. You can't see that. And actually, I think I'm rolling into my ceiling, okay? But very much like we did at the start. Very much like we did at the start. And then we'll be back into that standing position. So while we're here, we'll take that breath out. Breath in, just roll those shoulders, relax those shoulders down. We'll find that lovely position with those feet. And we're going to think about breathing in and then breathing out. And then we're going to take a breath in, reach over that shoulder, give yourself a nice little pat on the back, gently press that elbow to the ceiling. Now, while we're here, we're going to look towards the opposite shoulder. Take the hand onto the crown of that head and gently, gently draw that head so we're looking towards the opposite hip. And then we're going to release and breathe out. Good. We're going to do the same on the other side. So we're going to reach over that shoulder. Just give yourself a little pat on the back. You can use this hand to support. And then we're going to look towards the opposite shoulder.
Take this supporting hand, gently draw that head so we're looking towards the hip. And then we're going to release again. Take that roll of the shoulders. We're going to take a breath in through the nose. And as we breathe in, this time we're not going to worry about that lateral breathing. Hopefully you weren't worrying about it. But we're going to draw that breath down, all the way down to the base of those lungs. And then we're going to push it out with control. We're going to take one more breath in. And breath out. And then we're going to wiggle those fingers. Give those toes a little shake. Well, thank you, everybody. You might be able to hear some banging around. That was absolutely lovely spending time with you. Yeah, again, it's like an hour, 10 minutes, this, isn't it? I think I'll advertise it as that. But thank you so much for joining me. I so enjoyed spending time with you this morning. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And look forward to seeing you in the week at maybe some of the other classes or next week. Signing out. Bye-bye.